All right, folks, let's talk about those racist voter reform bills that you've all heard so much about. I took the time to read the one that we have here in Florida where I live, and I also took the time to read the one in Texas, which has gotten a ton of press because, as always, the Democrats have pulled a large stunt, a publicity stunt, and it's been illegal, and they shouldn't have done it, but again, it's all about pulling stunts, getting attention, doing the wrong thing, and not serving their constituents as they were hired to do. So what happened? Well, they got on a plane to the tune of $100,000, and they flew to Washington, D.C., saying that they were going there, not to avoid voting on a bill that they don't want passed, but they said they're going to Washington, D.C. to end and fight against the filibuster. I'll call BS on that right now because I know that the filibuster serves to protect the minority vote like you'd have in Texas. And I don't mean minority like I mean skin color. I mean minority as in Texas, the Democratic vote is the minority vote and the filibuster helps them out. So anyway, they get on a plane, unmasked, with beer, on your dime. Because guess what? The time that they're spending flying up to Washington, D.C., is paid for with your tax dollars. They get a $200+ a day stipend to do that, plus the regular salaries. So anyway, they don't want this voter reform bill passed because it'll quite simply make it harder to cheat in the next election. That's probably going to be censored because, as we know, Jen Psaki is monitoring content which is deemed to be misinformation. They're also tracking people that spread it. So I'm probably now on another list, even though I've been on one for a very long time, which I don't care. I already said, name the list after me. My name's Jason Mariner. I'm not hard to find. Put me at the top of the list. Put me on it 10 times. Doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference to me is the condition of this nation, our Constitution remaining intact, and the future of my children and yours. That's what makes a difference to me. So I'm going to fight for it. So I don't care what the consequences may be. So, again, I took the liberty to read every single word of both of these bills. And the one in Texas that they flew out of town in dereliction of duty to avoid voting on, you know what they want? They want you to be alive. They want you to have a photo ID that says, yes, you do live in Texas and you are a U.S. citizen. Doesn't seem like they're asking for so much thus far, but I'll go along and you can decide. They don't want these pop-up voting stations like the 20-foot by 20-foot pop-up tents that you can buy at Walmart that sells mainly stuff made in China. But that's besides the point. We'll get to that in another video because every dollar you spend goes to China, and every dollar that goes to China is a dollar that's one day going to be used against you when they wage war against the United States, because they've already announced they plan on taking us over and being the dominant world power. But anyway, back to the voting reform bill. No pop-up voting stations. I don't see a problem with that. Pop-up voting stations, you know what's going to happen? They'll set up tents. They'll say, hey, come and vote here. And shady stuff will start to happen. They don't want voting machines being used that you can install weird software in where you insert a ballot and it counts it as 3 votes for a specific candidate and maybe 1/10 of a vote for another candidate that they don't like. Seems pretty fair to me. The next thing they want is for every ballot that's inserted into one of these electronic machines to have a hard copy counterpart. So, if you have 1 vote recorded electronically, there should be 1 piece of paper filled out by a real human being with air in their lungs that's actually alive and a United States citizen. Pretty reasonable again. I don't see any problem with this. In fact, what I would argue is the people that are saying that this bill is racist are by definition being racist in saying that it's racist, because to say that a bill like that is racist is to say that the African American community that they use as pawns can't get their asses in line. They can't get a photo ID. They can't be alive when they vote. That's pretty racist. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to go out and start asking people that have a different skin color than I do, hey, if a bunch of white people said that you couldn't get an ID because you're black, Is that racist? Let's see what their answer is going to be. Why don't you take a stab at it and guess and drop a comment? Then I'm going to go ask a bunch of ill-informed, misinformed, misdirected, probably liberal college students, and I'm going to ask them about these voter bills that they've never read, and I'm going to say, what's racist about them? Do you think they're racist? And they're going to say, yeah, they're racist. Well, why? They're not going to be able to explain to me why, because they haven't read them. They're going to just go off of what they heard from Don Lemon on CNN. And I'm here to tell you right now, Don Lemon is a fool. He has absolutely no clue what he's talking about, and he's pushing a racist agenda. Go figure, a black man would fight against his own people, but that's what we have. So, I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect black people are able to get a photo ID. I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect them to have the capability to be real United States citizens that are alive. Oh, another thing that they don't want happening when the voting process takes place is large stacks of mail-out ballots going out to people who don't request them. Because if you don't request a mail-in ballot, why should you get one? It's awfully funny what's going on these days. Ted Kennedy received from one of his constituents something from the U.S. Census Bureau. And when that constituent opened it up, you know what fell out of the envelope? A $5 bill. I don't know, seems like coercion to me. Fill this out in a favorable way. Here's $5. I didn't get my $5 because I think they know that I would very quickly send that to Governor DeSantis. And they know that. You know why they know that? Because they're working with Facebook and all the other big tech social media tyrant companies to figure out who you are and what you do. That's why only certain people are getting those $5 bills in their Census Bureau sheets. I don't think it's a far stretch of the imagination to guess that people that are going to mysteriously receive mail-out ballots are going to receive maybe $5 bills in them. We already know that the White House is sending out $40 gift cards. So we have a government that's paying people to do things in their favor. That's not legal. We have a government that's not applying the rule of law evenly. We have a government where we have state legislators jumping on planes to avoid doing their sworn duty. Governor Abbott's vowed that if they don't return to have them arrested. The ACLU has said, hey, don't worry, if you get arrested, we'll pay your bond. Of course they said that. They're not for civil liberties. They're only for their way or the highway. But when you get elected and you say you're going to serve your constituents, you damn well better not board a plane and fly out of town to avoid doing your job. That's not only illegal, but I would say it's theft. It's theft from the American people. They're paying you to pass that bill or not. But either way, you should be there and figure it out and work it out. Since when is this a country where we can't work things out, meet in the middle? Again, divide and conquer. They have caused such division, and when I say they, I'm talking about the Silicon Valley tech tyrants and the mainstream media. They have caused such deep division that we can't just work it out. Again, read a book on war, how to take over a country, divide the population, get them to hate one another, marginalize a certain type of people, and then when you're done with them, marginalize the rest of them. It's exactly what happened in the early 1930s when the Nazi Worker Party took power. They did things like said, we've got to take all your guns. And if you have them, you need to tell us and we need to register them because there's a lot of hunting accidents and crime. Similarly, Joe Biden said, well, the Second Amendment isn't to defend against tyranny. Yes, it actually is. It was definitively written by our founding fathers. The Second Amendment is to defend against tyranny. Now, I'm not saying that we need to go grab our guns and fight this government. What I'm saying is the truth, that we need to know what the Constitution says, means, and is about. So Real Republican News is going to start on an endeavor to educate your children on American history. We're going to start writing kids' books so they know. Most people don't know that we declared our independence on the 4th of July, 1776. But the Declaration of Independence wasn't ratified until August of that same year. Most people don't even know what ratified means, so we'll put footnotes for all the parents. But anyway, I think it's important to tell the truth, and I also think it's noteworthy that the plane full of Democratic lawmakers, the ones that made the laws, that say, hey, if you, the regular folk, the peasants out there, want to get on a plane, you have to wear a face diaper. No, I don't think that's right. I don't think it's equal. I'd argue that that's probably the most jabbed crowd out there. They're not wearing face diapers. I don't know. They also say they're for the Green New Deal. They're flying on a jet that probably produces a larger carbon footprint than I will in an entire year. So, do they really care about face diapers? Do they really care about the Green New Deal? Do they really care about voter rights? Or is it what they really care about, holding on to power and control forever, even if it costs you your rights and your freedom? So, maybe you've read the voter reform bill, maybe you haven't. But if you have, and you have some real information on why it's racist, please let me know. I'd love to have you in on the show. We can conference you in, and I'd love to talk to you about it. The point is, I'm done being silent. I'm done being warded off by the threat of, if you spread this information, we'll deplatform you. Go ahead. Deplatform me. You've done it before. You'll do it again. You'll continue to restrict the content that I produce. And that's fine, because I'll continue to produce it. And I'll continue to influence my fellow Americans to know the truth. America is not the ground on which you stand. It's the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, your God-given unalienable rights. And if we lose those, we lose it all. All of those things are supported by the Constitution. So keep an eye on things, folks. If we don't start speaking up and speaking out and resisting what's going on, we will lose this country and never be able to get it back. James Madison wrote an interesting paper called Federalist 46. When the government starts overstepping its bounds, just don't comply. Read it. It's important. It's part of American history. So until next time, God bless America, God bless you, and pay attention to what's going on, please. Stay tuned for more here at RealRepublicanNews.com.